arrived in Vancouver for the last stop on his state visit to Canada, a 3-day visit. He was greeted in Vancouver on the tarmac by the Prime Minister, and the two leaders have just now wrapped up a visit to a Sikh temple in Vancouver. They're now en route to a Hindu temple in nearby Surrey, BC. Joining us in the studio once again is CTV Sarika Segal, who spent some time living in India.
I did, yeah.
Yes.
And I was listening to what was being said there in that temple, Dan, and really there has been a lot of division or sensitivity when it comes to some Indian-Sikh relations with Narendra Modi. They believe that back in 2002 in the state of Gurdwara, where Modi was the chief minister at the time, that he didn't do enough to prevent bloodshed that happened at a Gurdwara. Well, at this Gurdwara here in Vancouver, he spoke about that and said, you know, there are a lot of ties between Gujarat and the Sikh community, and that they share historical blood, and that life between them is more in common than not. So he really wanted to stress the point that they were one, that this happened a while ago, and even with that temple that had been ruined in Gujarat, that he would be able to, that he wanted to make sure it was exactly the way it was before, and wanted to respect the culture and community.
Can we take anything from the fact he spoke so briefly? I mean, it felt like he went on a very long time last night in front of adoring fans, and today in what you might have thought might be at least a partly suspicious audience, maybe even partly hostile. He spoke very briefly.
He spoke briefly, but poetically. He did say what he needed to say at this time, and maybe it's a time issue as well, being in Vancouver for such a short amount of a small period of time, having to head to a Hindu temple as well. But we don't know exactly what his mandate is. I do know he wants to meet with other financial leaders. He's got a state dinner planned, and now he's heading to a temple. And how far that temple is from the Gurdwara, we don't know. But yes, it does say that there is a sensitivity to those relations. There have been protests happening in Canada because of him arriving here in this country, and a lot of people have many things to say about the Sikh relations and human rights that he's been associated with back in 2002.
For anyone who's been watching the television coverage, our Prime Minister has been glued to his elbow. Obviously, this is a huge market. You know, an awful lot of people live in India. It's a developing economy. They need what we have to sell. So this is a relationship that could work very well for us. So there's also a repairing of relations, because you mentioned the Sikh community, the Hindu communities. There's a repairing of relations between India and Canada.
Absolutely,
as well.
right? Because these are talks that have been wanting to happen for a very long time and that haven't happened. What Narendra Modi wants is a lot more mobility for visitors here in Canada and India. He wants better visa rules, temporary workers here to be a different policy for them as well. But, you know, Modi is just the second prime minister to come from India since 1973, so clearly there's been a lot of work to accomplish here when it comes to Indo-Canadian relations. And, of course, he is arriving there for his 3-day tour in Vancouver. We have just seen Harper and Modi there at that Gurdwara. They are now leaving that. Harper was speaking to the crowd first, while Modi spoke moments after. And after this, the two now en route to that Hindu temple to visit others in the Indo-Canadian community who are coming out to see the Prime Minister of India. Just before boarding that plane to Vancouver, he was in Toronto visiting